Happy holidays, people of the world! It's time to talk about that great thing that happens around the holidays. The prevalence of eggnog skyrockets, and I'm going to show you 3 cocktails that you can make with homemade and or store-bought eggnog that will actually make you like it for once in your life. Happy holidays from Mike's Hard Reviews. On today's episode, eggnog cocktails. Not gonna lie, not my best intro. I'm a little out of practice. Hey there, and hello, welcome back to Mike's Hard Reviews. My name is Michael. I'm a bartender and mixologist from Southwest Michigan, and today, yes, we're gonna be looking at none other than eggnog cocktails. They're like a little chalkboard, some stuff I added to the set, and they look kind of nice. Eggnog is one of those things that is technically, in and of itself, a cocktail that you can make in single-serving vessels with a shaker or a blender or a whole bunch of other different ways you can make it. But oftentimes, most people incorporate it into their diet around this time of year by buying a carton at the store, taking it home, having one glass of it that you may or may not make boozy, and then deciding that that was enough. I myself have done this several times and struggled to get through whole containers of eggnog, which I'm sure my cardiologist really appreciated I threw away. In any case, I'm coming at this from the perspective of mixology is not just a way to take ingredients and make them better than they were before, but to prevent waste by using them more intelligently. So today, we're gonna make 3 cocktails that are gonna help you go through your supply of eggnog at home, and I'm actually gonna try making one with like a fresh nog component to it today for the first time on camera, and we're gonna see how that goes. The only thing I'm going to advise before you begin is to pick an eggnog that you like. If you make your own, you can use your own, but otherwise use whatever is on the store shelf that you enjoy. I reach for Southern Comfort, which is actually what I'm going to be using here today for anything that I'm not making a fresh nog in. If that suits you, great, go for it. I'm totally cool with the notion of you doing that. All right, let's start off with our first cocktail, which I call a Russian white elephant. Not a gift that I would want to open, personally. This is a riff on a White Russian that substitutes the cream component for eggnog and adds some Christmassy spice notes to help combine everything together. A lot of people use eggnog for a coffee creamer around this time of year, and I don't personally like the texture that leaves behind in your mouth, but if you do, this is perfect for you. Let's grab our ingredients. For this cocktail, you're going to need vodka, coffee liqueur, some eggnog, Angostura Bitters, and for garnish, a sprinkle of ground nutmeg. I do it fresh if I were you, just because I think that suits the nature of the cocktail best, but to each is their own. Let's go ahead and get mixing. Fortunately, this is a cocktail we can make in the glass, so we're gonna grab our double rocks glass out of the freezer. Into that we will place 1 to 2 dashes of Angostura Bitters, 1 ounce of coffee liqueur, and 2 ounces of vodka. Let's go ahead and fill this up with some ice, and then we will stir that briefly to combine. To finish that off, we're going to grab our eggnog of choice and just pour that over top, hitting that ice to make a float across the top. I'll hit this with some nutmeg for garnish, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is a Russian white elephant. Let's go and give that a taste. Cheers. It happens to be everything that you like about a white Russian, but with this like thicker, creamier, or custardy kind of texture to it, and it is significantly more desserty. For some reason, this eggnog didn't float on top as well, so I'm just gonna stir that together real quick. Plancha. Yeah, there it is. It's creamy and rich and custardy and desserty and fulfilling that exact ish that you want from a white Russian, but with a little bit of extra Christmassiness behind it, which is nice, because frankly, who doesn't like a Christmassy dessert cocktail around this time of year? So that's the first of 3. Let's go ahead and move on to the second one, because fuck the pomp and circumstance. So we started off with a cold coffee cocktail. I thought that was kind of just an interesting place to put the eggnog. In this case, I think we're gonna do something cool with it, technique-wise, that'll make it interesting, with a cocktail that I call a Yuletide Coffee, the riff on an Irish coffee. Let's grab our ingredients. For this cocktail, you're going to need Irish whiskey, Benedictine, and eggnog if you're choosing. Either a freshly brewed drip coffee or some hot water and an instant coffee, Angostura Bitters, and then for nutmeg, some garnishing. What did I just say? Nutmeg for garnish, not garnishing for nutmeg. Jesus Christ, I've had like 2 sips of a drink. What the fuck is wrong with me? Let's set these aside and move on to some of our more complicated setup, because we do need to do like a prep step first. To begin, we need to froth our eggnog, actually. Grab a vessel in which you can froth something, and if you have one, an egg frother, but otherwise you can just get a actual whisk and just spin it in place. That does do the same thing. We're gonna pour in just a random kind of amount of eggnog based on how much space you have in your glass. I'm gonna be using a traditional Irish coffee mug. About 2 ounces is the bare minimum I would say you should do this with. The volume helps because if you try to whip too small an amount of something, it can tend to separate because there's a dairy component here that we're trying to preserve. Grab your egg frother, just kind of blitz that for a hot minute just to get those air bubbles incorporated. Give it about, I would say, 20 seconds, the amount that you'd stir a cocktail for, and give it a lot of agitation while your frother's working. By the time you're done with that, and I'm done with this spiel, we should be just about where we need to be. And from there, we can build our cocktail, because I've got some hot water in the stove that's about to hit boiling. Grab an Irish coffee mug, and into which we will build the cocktail. To that, we will add about 2 bar spoons of instant coffee, 1 dash of Angostura Bitters, the stuff of the gods, 3/4 of an ounce of Benedictine, and 1.5 ounces of Irish whiskey. There's not a lot of water in alcohol, that's kind of the point. So give this a preliminary stir with your bar spoon just to start the coffee dissolving, but you're not going to see that fully happen until the combination of dilution and heat from our hot water component is going to hit this and make it do what it's supposed to do. I like swizzling stuff because people look at you swizzle something and they go, whoa, what? Even if it doesn't need to be swizzled like that. Once your water's boiling, go ahead and take that. Just do you want a light boil, like a simmer almost, and just pour that over your concoction up to your wash line. We're gonna give that a brief stir just to incorporate that coffee and make sure nothing is stuck in here. Once that's nice and stirred together, just set your spoon aside and grab your frothed eggnog back up. We're gonna take the spoon that we stirred this with, lay that over the top of our coffee, and layer the whipped eggnog on top. If you've done it right, you won't see any cascading, and just like a traditional Irish coffee, it'll sit on top nice and smooth. To finish that off, we're gonna go ahead and hit that with some powdered and or freshly grated nutmeg, whichever you have on hand. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a Yuletide coffee. Okay, let's go ahead and give that a taste. Cheers. Ooh. Oh, that's the best one I've made yet. Oh, that's really good. The thing about the Yuletide coffee is that it has all the appeal of an Irish coffee, a smooth, light whiskey in the background that gives character, but not so much as to be abrasive like a rye or a scotch or even a bourbon. And on top of that, you get these cool herbal notes and like a kind of like vanilla-like sweetness from the Benedictine that you don't find in a regular Irish coffee, which plays really nicely with the kind of spicy notes present in the eggnog, and the eggnog sitting on top, and that's cold and thick and rich and creamy and desserty, but the coffee underneath it is giving it the necessary acid that it takes to prevent it from becoming like cloyingly sweet or really, really heavy. This is going to be a little bit more balanced as far as a nightcap drink goes. And the fact that it's warm during the cold winter months like this, it's a big plus. I like this one a lot. I made this one a lot this season. I'm sure I've put on pounds because of this drink, but hey. So I'm going to put this down before I finish it, like right here in front of you. And we're gonna move on to our third and final cocktail featuring eggnog that I'm actually going to make for you guys using a fresh nog component for the first time on camera. Something that'll make you realize you can combine eggnog and citrus just fine. I hope that statement scared you. Okay, so how many of you guys have heard of an Orange Julius before? An Orange Julius, as far as I understand it, I don't know actually how they make them, is like a non-alcoholic like smoothie concoction of, I think, orange juice concentrate or orange juice and cream and dairy and vanilla and like syrups and sugar and things to make like this really kind of sweet, icy, fruity drink that's somewhere between, I would say, like a smoothie and a milkshake, kind of. It's cutting that line pretty divisively because of the combination of citrus juice and dairy, which is usually not a good thing for drinks. But as a note, dairy is curdled by citrus components, basically no matter what kind it is, with the exception of probably oat. So that's not really usually the thing you want to do unless you're making a milk punch, and that's a whole other thing than what we're talking about. Point is, they're really tasty. I thought, well, Orange Julius does that. eggnog has a dairy component but adds egg, let's see if we can make an eggnog Orange Julius, which I call an et tu brutes. Orange Julius, Julius Caesar was assassinated, et tu brutes. It's a perversion of an Orange Julius with like an eggnog component. Full disclosure, I spec'd this out with my Southern Comfort eggnog before. I'll leave that spec in the description down below. If you are uncomfortable eating raw egg, which is understandable, you shouldn't do it frequently, but it doesn't pose that considerable a risk. Use that instead with a pasteurized eggnog because you won't be presented with the same issues with foodborne illness you would if you were to do it with a regular whole egg. I'll tell you guys though the same stuff that I've always told my cocktail classes back when I taught those. The small amount of risk you attain by eating a fresh egg raw for salmonella is basically non-existent. That's not non-existent, but it's pretty goddamn close. So long as your egg is coming from a reputable source, is within date, and you properly emulsify it and treat it with respect. Aside from that though, just know that there is always a slight increase in probability for foodborne illness whenever you are ingesting a raw dairy or meat product of any kind. And on that note, don't eat raw dairy. Just gonna throw that out there. I said raw egg and like meat and dairy. Don't eat raw milk. Just don't do it. It's just don't. Just don't. Just gonna put that out there. I don't know. I brought it up. I'm gonna say that. Just don't. Let's grab our ingredients. For this version of the cocktail where we are making our eggnog component fresh, you are going to need a whole raw egg, some orange juice and orange for garnish, nutmeg for garnish, Angostura bitters, a milk component of some kind, milk or dairy, cream, whatever that may be, cinnamon syrup, triple sec or another form of orange liqueur, and vodka. This is a lengthened version of the spec of this drink because we are making part of it fresh. So go to the description down below if you want to cut some of these steps out, and if you need a spec for a cinnamon syrup, I'll tell you how I make mine. This commercially available one from Monin is a cinnamon bun syrup. It's interchangeable, but it does have a kind of artificial flavor to it, so make your own at home. I just happen to have this from previous spec work I was doing. Anyway, let's make an et tu brutes. Quickly note I want to point out, your dairy option does matter. You do want to have something that has a very high fat content somewhere in the drink to help emulsify everything together and produce a thick and rich mouthfeel. I'm doing that today by using specifically this unsweetened coconut milk that Target sells. This is actually not intended for drinking, but rather intended for cooking with. I found this in the international food section with the other traditional ingredients found in Indian food. And the reason I'm using this is because it has emulsifiers in it. This has, I believe, xanthan gum in it. So it's thicker than a regular coconut milk, but still has all the coconut milk flavors that I'm looking for, because personally, I try to stay dairy-free as best as possible. And I've already had enough eggnog today to know that I'm gonna hate myself in 45 minutes. So let's just move on with that and get that out of the way. Just make sure you have something that has a decent amount of fat content. Anyway, let's get started. Grab a cocktail shaker and let's get moving. To start, we're gonna crack one whole egg into our shaker. We're gonna come behind that with half an ounce of a cinnamon syrup, 3/4 of an ounce of an orange liqueur, 1.5 ounces of freshly squeezed orange juice, 1.5 ounces of your dairy component, and finally, 2 ounces of vodka. We're gonna dry shake this first to emulsify that egg white. If you have a spare coil to throw in here, for the sake of helping break that egg down, throw that in there now, but you can do it without that by just shaking a little bit harder and a little bit longer. All right, give that a flip and hold on to this tight because we're doing a dry shake first to emulsify. You don't want this to explode on you, I can promise you that. Once you get that shaken and carefully cracked open to release that pressure, let's grab some ice and do a wet shake. I'm gonna wipe off the small tin of our shaker just to make sure we can get a nice good seal around that when we shake it again. Put that down, line it up, tap it, and shake for 10 to 15 seconds just to chill and dilute. For serving, I'm gonna grab a chilled Collins Collins grass, yeah, that's what it is. I'm gonna grab a chilled Collins glass out of my freezer for serving, and we'll fill that with smaller ice. Break open our shaker, put that down like that, grab our strainers, and go to town. To finish this off, I'm gonna garnish that with a slice of fresh orange, if you can get it, and a quick sprinkle of nutmeg. That, ladies and gentlemen, is an et tu brutes. Slancha. Or however they say cheers in Rome. I feel like that would be a better option. Gonna need a straw to drink this one. Throw that on in there. And cheers. Oh, hey. Yeah. Yeah. Just yes. The answer's yes. Just yes. Oh man. I'm using that coconut milk here, obviously, and with that xanthan gum added to it, it's functioning like a coconut cream, but not quite the same. It's got a much lighter coconut flavor, not so rich, not so pungent, but it does taste really, really fantastic. That kind of note is carrying through, combining the orange and the cinnamon and the spices from the Ango. The vodka gives it proof, the triple sec keeps it orangey and bright, and then it's just a goddamn good cup of nog. And the thing is too, unlike a regular eggnog, it's not like saccharinely heavy on your tongue. It's thick and it's rich and it's heavy, but it reads more like a lassi, especially because I've got the coconut milk in there, than it does an eggnog, which is pretty goddamn cool. And it still feels fresh and bright because it's got that citrus in there, and it makes it different. It makes it unique. It's like eggnog for people who live in Florida. Even though, you know, fuck people who live in Florida. All right, there you have it. 3 different cocktails that all come together to make a collage of eggnog-based drinks that you can actually try and probably enjoy at home, even if you think you don't like eggnog. We have the Russian White Elephant, the Yuletide Coffee, and my personal favorite, the most interesting I think of the 3, the 8 tuber taste, which is just the weirdest fucking thing ever, but tastes really good when you make it fresh, actually. I would probably advise that over the other spec. But however you choose to drink this holiday season, please do drink respectfully and carefully, and be sure to enjoy the merriment of the season without overdoing it, because nobody needs to take you to the hospital, the emergency room, while wearing a Santa Claus onesie. Not that I've ever had to do that or had that happen to me before. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed, click the like button down below and subscribe to catch more episodes of the show. This was a lot of fun. I intend to do more videos like this with collages of different cocktails, all based around a single theme. I think it'd be a lot of fun, and then I've got a nice big project that I want to start in the beginning of the year in January. So, do follow, check all that out. I've got new links in the description down below because some of my old social media links don't go anywhere anymore, and we've got some new ones to replace those. So, thank you so much for watching. I've got 3 drinks to make, to finish, and I'll see you on the other end of whatever happens to me when these are all gone. Sláinte, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Hanukkah, whatever the fuck you celebrate. Love yourself, love your family, be merry. See you around.